How's it going, my friends? I'm Skwizzit. Can you beat Pokemon Emerald version with only Spinda? This should be a really fun one because Spinda's definitely not the worst, but it's definitely not the best. Of course, I've given myself a list of rules and regulations, so this can indeed be called a challenge run. Without further ado, let's go over the rules. Number 1, I could only use Spinda in battle. Number 2, other Pokemon could only be used outside of battle for the sole purpose of HMs. Number 3, no items except held items. And finally, number 4, no glitches or exploits. That would definitely ruin the fun. Right off the bat, I switch out Trico for Spinda. This will in turn force my rival to take Torchic. Torchic evolves into a fighting type, which I thought would make this a bit harder. This will also allow me to take Spinda as my starter Pokemon. With all that being said, let's take a look at Spinda's stats. Spinda is a pure normal type Pokemon with base 60 stats across the board, giving it a base stat total of 360, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. Spinda learns some okay to decent moves through level up. A small handful of notable ones include Feint Attack, Psybeam, Dizzy Punch, Double Edge, and finally Hypnosis. Not good coverage, but decent at best. Although it's unreliable, Hypnosis is absolutely crazy in this run, just want to throw that out there. I know I have to spice it up with some TMs through this run, so some notable ones include Return, Dig, Shadow Ball, and Brick Break. You could argue that Return is crazy, but I'm only Spinda. I nicknamed Spinda Bushimi, and we'll take a look at his stats. Bushimi is a brave nature, which means plus attack and minus speed. Plus attack is great, but that minus speed is a little concerning. As long as I level up to get Feint Attack before Roxanne, she shouldn't be an issue. Gym Leader Roxanne, so I level up Bushimi enough to where he has Feint Attack and Psybeam, both of which are special attacks because the physical special split didn't come until Generation 4. Feint Attack is doing a lot of damage as the first Geodude goes down after healing up just a little bit with a potion. Feint Attack is also going to two-shot this Geodude as well. So we go for another one and take it out. Last but not least, Nosepass is coming in, which is a big problem because he's really tanky. Although they're special, Feint Attacks and Psybeams are just not doing too much to Nosepass because it's so bulky. However, I do try a mixture of both because I really want to get the confusion hacks with Psybeam, so Nosepass can start hitting itself. It heals up with its Oran Berry as I go for Psybeams, hoping to get that confusion as it heals up with a potion. I go for another Psybeam and get the confusion, although it doesn't really matter because he breaks through and then snaps out of confusion to hit me with a couple tackles. Luckily, Nosepass doesn't hit too hard and I take it down with 2 more Psybeams. This went better than expected. Time to head down south and take on Brawley. Brawley should be a walk in the park because I have Psybeam and that deals super effective damage against fighting types. My mistake here was coming into this battle without full HP. Machop does take a lot from Psybeams, but it winds up not being a one-shot, so it does land a huge Karate Chop on me. Next up is Meditite. Meditite is really easy because all it wants to do is go for Focus Punches, and Focus Punch is a 2-turn move. You have to tighten your focus on the first turn, and then on the second turn you unleash a really powerful 150 base power fighting attack. Luckily, I don't miss a tackle here while I'm spamming them, and Meditite could do nothing. Tackle takes down Meditite. Next is Makuhita. Luckily, I have Psybeam for you. I go for Psybeam, and it takes out... Round 2 with Brawley. Machop is his lead. I hit it with Psybeam and it lives with a sliver. Luckily he bulks up and doesn't hit me with Karate Chop, so he super potions up. I hit it with Psybeam and it ends up being a roll. I take it down in one shot. Next is Meditite, and he's gonna do his Meditite thing. Just tighten his focus, hoping to land a Focus Punch, and hopefully I miss a tackle or something like that, but it doesn't happen. Last is Makuhita. Psybeam is going to do a huge chunk, but doesn't quite one-shot as it heals up with Citrus Berry after a bulk up. Makuhita pops its Citrus Berry, and I hit it with another Psybeam to take it out. I hit level 23 and can learn Hypnosis, the most unreliable but life-saving move, so I get rid of Tackle, forgetting that I had Uproar. I could have been using Uproar the whole time. Before heading east, I go next door and pick up the Silk Scarf because I'm an idiot and didn't grab it before Brawley. Next up is Rival Battle 3. She leads with Wingull, and 1 Uproar is going to take it down. Combuskin is next, and that's scary. Uproar does just over half, and Double Kick hits me to just under half. Luckily, I'm faster, and another Uproar will take it down. I level up to 27 and learn a good stab move in Dizzy Punch, and I'm going to go over Uproar for that one. Lombre comes in last and gets one shot by my newfound power. Next up is Watson. Let's do this. Electric Gym Leader Watson leads with Voltorb, and Voltorb goes down to 1 Dizzy Punch. Next up is Electrike, that also goes down to 1 Dizzy Punch. Not bad at all, right? Next is Magneton. What an issue that steel typing is. I miss with a Hypnosis as he misses with a Sonic Boom. I land a Hypnosis and start hitting it with Dizzy Punches because I don't have an attack that hits Magneton for neutral damage. Magneton wakes up and paralyzes me with a Thunder Wave as I continue to hit it with Dizzy Punches to no avail. One more Dizzy Punch is going to knock it down to the range where Watson heals Magneton with a Super Potion. I cry. I go for Hypnosis and continue my barrage of Dizzy Punches, which are doing about a quarter, maybe a little less than a quarter. One more Dizzy Punch knocks it down to Super Potion range. Of course, Watson uses the Super Potion and then proceeds to take me out with a Shockwave. I think I need to use Hypnosis more. Attempt number 7, I make it back to Magneton with ease. I hit it with a Hypnosis, putting it to sleep, and then proceed to hit it with a flurry of Dizzy Punches. I end up confusing it in its sleep with a Dizzy Punch, and then knocking it down to red, which in turn makes Watson, of course, heal it up with a Super Potion. Back to square one. After the Super Potion, I hit Magneton with a couple Dizzy Punches, then it wakes up and hits me with a Thunder Wave. Luckily enough, one more Dizzy Punch is enough to take down Magneton. Last but not least is Manectric. So it comes out, and one Dizzy Punch does a ton of damage as it goes for a Howl for basically no reason. I also end up confusing it as Manectric pops its Citrus Berry. Unfortunately, Manectric does break through confusion and hits me with a decently powerful Shockwave. Another Dizzy Punch is going to knock Manectric down to a sliver of red, so here comes that Super Potion. Fortunately, another Dizzy Punch is enough to take down Manectric. I hit level 34 and have the option of learning Teeter Dance. Teeter Dance just confuses the opponent, has terrible accuracy. I do contemplate it, but I end up not doing it. Next is the battle with Maxie. Right off the bat, Mightyana's Intimidate sucks. It lowers my attack by one stage, so I'm not doing as much as I would have. Rock Smash sucks as well. Why did I click it? I don't know. Rock Smash it's booty. Dizzy Punch ends up taking down Mightyana. Next is Zubat, and Zubat goes down to a Dizzy Punch. Who would have guessed? Camerupt is last, and it is pretty tanky. He goes for an Ember, and it burns me. Luckily, my next Dizzy Punch is a crit, or that would not have KO'd. Next up is Flannery. Flannery is the first kind of speed bump in the run. Numel goes down to one Dizzy Punch. Slugma goes down to one Dizzy Punch as well, but then Camerupt comes out. I was a little worried about Camerupt. Dizzy Punch does a lot to Camerupt as it sets up a sunny day. Of course, Flannery heals it up with a Hyper Potion as I go for a feint attack. That way, my following Dizzy Punch does indeed guarantee me the knockout. And it does. Camerupt goes down. Next up is tanky Torkoal. Torkoal is definitely a huge issue. It beautifully takes a Dizzy Punch to the face, body slams me and paralyzes me in return, and then hits me with a sun-boosted Overheat to take me down. A handful of attempts later, I miss a Hypnosis and Torkoal goes for an Attract. This is probably the worst thing that could happen because Attract is so overpowered. Let's just move on from this little nightmare. I make it back to Torkoal with really low HP, but I land a Hypnosis, so that's enough for me to knock it out with a Dizzy Punch, followed by a feint attack, and then another Dizzy Punch. Finally, this was probably attempt number 11 or 12. Next up is Normal Norman. The Spinda Mirror Match. I hit it with a Dizzy Punch to leave it in the red. It hits me back with a Facade, heals up with a Hyper Potion as I go for Rock Smash, followed up with another Dizzy Punch to knock it out. Next up, he sends in Slacking really early, and the only reason I'm scared of this thing is because it has access to counter. Fearing said counter, I go for Hypnosis and put Slacking to sleep. After putting Slacking to sleep, my best move to hit it with is Dizzy Punch. Dizzy Punch does just about a third, but it wakes up and luckily it's loafing around. It heals up with its Citrus Berry as I put it back to sleep, and then continue my barrage of Dizzy Punches. Fortunately, Slacking doesn't wake up, and 2 more Dizzy Punches are going to be enough to knock it out. Next up, Norman decides to send in Vigoroth, and this poor guy gets one shot to a crit Dizzy Punch. Unfortunate, my friend. Last but not least is Linoon. Linoon comes in, outspeeds, and hits me with a weak Facade. Dizzy Punch brings it down to the red, so Norman heals it with a Hyper Potion. The next Dizzy Punch ends up confusing Linoon. Linoon hits itself in confusion, taking itself out for an awesome victory. Time to head east. In the Weather Institute, I snag an awesome cast form. Yeah, time for another rival battle. Pelipper's first. My rival's Pelipper likes to go for Pretentious Protects practically all the time. It doesn't like going for attacking moves. It goes for Mist, and of course I take it down with 2 consecutive Dizzy Punches. Next up is Combuskin, and of course Combuskin is a little scary, so I put it to sleep with Hypnosis. Rendering Combuskin completely helpless, I take it down with a Dizzy Punch and then a Rock Smash. I'm glad I didn't get to see the damage Double Kick would have done to me. Last but not least is Lombre. Lombre goes for a Fake Out, postponing the inevitable as it goes down to a Dizzy Punch. Now I'm moving on to Winona. Winona leads with Swablu. That goes down to 1 Dizzy Punch. Tropius is incoming. I go for Feint Attack on Tropius. Don't ask me why I did it. It was a dumb choice. This upcoming Solar Beam is a crit and does massive damage. So, after a Hyper Potion, I hit it with Hypnosis to put it to sleep. Bushimi is then able to take down Tropius with 2 Dizzy Punches. I don't know what I was doing with that Feint Attack at the beginning. Anyway, Pelipper comes out, and Winona must have trained with May because their Pelipers like to do the exact same thing. Spam Protect and get KO'd for nothing because you decided not to go for an attacking move. I can't complain though, that's free real estate. Pelipper wakes up and of course goes for Protect, but another Dizzy Punch will take it down. At this point in time, I had completely forgotten that Winona had a Skarmory in her arsenal. I panic and put it to sleep. Just like Watson's Magneton, Skarmory carries the Steel typing. And in a similar fashion, I don't even have an attack that could hit Skarmory for neutral damage. Although I was caught off guard by Skarmory, I do try my best against it with a combination of Hypnosis and Feint Attack. I do decide to change it up every once in a while and try my luck with a Dizzy Punch Confusion. With that being said, this War of Attrition is definitely not in my favor. I try to whittle down Skarmory with a lot of feint attacks, but unfortunately, Winona carries a couple Hyper Potions under her belt. The moment I drop Skarmory down to a low amount of health, Winona does use a Hyper Potion on Skarmory, and I know it's over from there. My feint attacks are doing very pitiful damage because they're resisted, and Skarmory's an absolute tank. She does miss one Steel Wing, but her next Steel Wing is enough to take me down. I'm gonna need a different strategy. A huge shout out to Watson for providing said strategy. I teach Bushimi Shockwave, and that should deal with Skarmory really well. Round 2 with Winona. Swablu goes down to one Dizzy Punch, of course. Tropius is coming in, and I'm not going to make the mistake of going for Feint Attack. 2 Dizzy Punches after a sunny day set up by Tropius is enough to take it down, but not before taking some Aerial Ace damage thanks to its ability Chlorophyll. Winona's Pelipper comes out, and of course it goes for Protect on my first attempt at hitting it with a Shockwave. No Protect on my second Shockwave though, so that's going to take it down with a 4-time super effective move. Next up, Winona sends in the problem Pokemon, Skarmory. I go for a Shockwave and it does a lot of damage, so it's going to be a 2-hit KO. Just kidding, I instead go for Dizzy Punch, letting it live as it hits me with another Steel Wing. I made a mistake, so I go for another Shockwave after it gets healed up with Winona's Hyper Potion, and I don't make that mistake again. Another Shockwave will take it down. Last but not least, in Winona's arsenal is an Altaria. Dizzy Punch does a huge chunk of damage and confuses Altaria in the process. It hurts itself in confusion, heals up with its Oranberry? Huh. And I take it down with another Dizzy Punch. Down south in Mount Pyre, I grab the TM for Shadow Ball. Having a Ghost type attack alongside a normal type attack is pretty decent coverage. Not to mention, every Ghost attack was a physical attack until the release of Generation 4, so this will help. Before Maxi, I grab the PP Max in the Magma hideout. Team Magma leader Maxi. This battle was very one-sided. After Mighty Ina's Intimidate, I get a crit with Dizzy Punch and take it down. Crobat comes in and tries to use Confuse Ray, but my own tempo ability prevents me from being confused. It heals up, and I get a crit Dizzy Punch to knock out Crobat. Last but not least is Camerupt. I instantly hit Camerupt with a Dizzy Punch that confuses it. He hits himself in confusion, then Maxi heals up Camerupt with a Super Potion. 2 more Dizzy Punches are enough to take down Camerupt, and that's it. Moving on to Tate and Liza. Tate and Liza are pretty much always an issue in a solo run. I have to bring my Wingull in that I only use for Fly, just so I could initiate the battle. Without 2 Pokemon in your party, you cannot start the battle with Tate and Liza. Anyway, I have Shadow Ball, which is super effective against all 4 of her Pokemon. Essentially, the 2 questions you have to ask yourself in a solo run against Tate and Liza are these. Number 1, do I do enough damage? And number 2, in which order do I take out their Pokemon? Now this bummed me out a lot, and unfortunately my recording software bugged out on me. It only captured my mic but not the screen when I won. This took me a handful of attempts, and the order in which I KO'd the Pokemon were Claydol, Xatu, Lunatone, and lastly Solrock. I really wish the footage didn't mess up because it ended up going really well. It was just really disappointing to have something mess up towards the end instead of the beginning, because if it were at the beginning, it would have been easily fixed. The battle with Archie is really cool. Mighty Ina cuts my attack by 1 stage and then goes for Swagger, boosting my attack by 2, but own tempo prevents my confusion. Now that I'm at +1 attack, Mighty Ina goes down to 1 strength. Next up is Crobat, and it ends up tanking a strength, living on just a sliver of red HP. Archie heals Crobat with a Super Potion to be then taken out with another strength. Next up is Sharpedo. Sharpedo doesn't have good defenses, and it's incredibly frail, so it goes down to 1 strength. And that's a wrap, Archie. Let's move on to Juan. But first, Mom comes in the room and stops these crazy kids. Water-type gym leader Juan. Love Disc easily goes down to 1 strength. Next up, Juan sends out Whiscash. Whiscash is fairly bulky, but strength is gonna 2-shot it. Whiscash only sets up a Rain Dance, so my next strength is going to take it out. Next up is Celio. So Celio comes out. Strength is going to be a 2-shot as it hits me with a Water Pulse. Luckily, it doesn't confuse me in the process. 1 more strength will take it down. Juan's next Pokemon is Crawdaunt, and Crawdaunt is pretty scary. I hit it with a strength and it does quite a bit of damage, but it hits me with a crab hammer that crits, and that essentially ruins the whole battle for me. He keeps restoring Crawdaunt to full health with hyper potions, and I do end up taking out Crawdaunt with a couple more strengths, but this leaves me in a real bad spot for Kingdra. Kingdra comes in, outspeeds me, and hits me with a water pulse to take me out. Round 2 with Juan goes much more smoothly. Love Disc goes down to 1 strength, of course. Whiscash comes out. I hit Whiscash with a strength, doing enough damage to put it in the range of a hyper potion as it sets up Rain Dance. So Juan heals up Whiscash with a hyper potion. I hit it with another strength, followed up by 1 more strength to take down Whiscash. At this point, the only thing I'm scared of is getting hit with another crab hammer crit. Celio comes in. Strength is going to be a 2-shot on Celio as he water pulses me and luckily doesn't get the confusion. Strength takes out Celio, and next up is Scary Crawdaunt. I hit Crawdaunt with a huge strength and it retaliates with a crab hammer that doesn't crit, thankfully, so that does pitiful damage. Crawdaunt goes down. Last but not least is Kingdra. It doesn't freeze me with an ice beam, and then it doesn't confuse me with a water pulse, so strengths are gonna take it down too. I'm just grateful it didn't go for double teams. After Wallace, I head down south to Pacific Log Town and pick up the return for TM and then teach it to Buscemi. Victory Road is smooth sailing, so I make it to Evergrande City to challenge the Elite Four. Elite Four Sydney, there's quite a few issues to unpack here, the first one being Mightyena has Intimidate, which lowers my attack by 1 stage. Mightyena also has Sand Attack, which is a bit of an annoyance. Then next up is Shiftry. Shiftry has the move Torment, which makes it to where you can't use the same move twice in a row, you have to mix it up. And then Cacturn. Cacturn has Cotton Spore, which lowers your speed by 2 stages. And then he also has Leech Seed, which deals residual damage and heals up the opponent based on that residual damage taken. With all that, it's safe to say that I didn't have to say that unexpectedly, Sydney was an issue. One strategy that comes to mind is that Shiftry has Swagger. What Swagger does is it confuses its target but raises its attack by 2 stages, effectively giving me +1 attack after Mightyena's Intimidate. Swagger also won't confuse me because of my ability Own Tempo. I get to Crawdaunt, but I go down to Leech Seed. Time to grind. So as I'm grinding, let's talk about the Elite Four. Sydney won't be an issue if I could get my plan to get swaggered by Shiftry to come to fruition. Phoebe shouldn't be bad because I have Shadow Ball. Sableye might be an issue because it's not weak to Ghost, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Glacia should be a 50-50. If I don't get frozen, I should be able to do it though. And then Drake, I feel like is going to be a huge issue. I hit level 70, so let's try Sydney again. Sydney leads with Mightyena, dropping my attack with Intimidate. I hit Mightyena with the Strength as it hits me with a Double Edge. I'd much rather get hit with a Double Edge than Sand Attack. Mightyena goes down. Shiftry comes out, I hit Shiftry with a huge strength, it sets up a double team, and I hit it with another strength to take it out. Obviously, my swagger strategy isn't going to work out. Cacturn comes in and takes a lot of damage from strength and hits me with a Cotton Spore, lowering my speed by 2 stages. It then goes for a feint attack, and I take it out with another strength. Crawdaunt comes out next and sets up a Swords Dance after outspeeding me. I hit it with a huge strength as it sets up another Swords Dance. That's awesome, it would have taken me out otherwise. So I take it down with a return. Last but not least is Sydney's Absol. Absol goes down to 2 returns after hitting me with a Slash and a Rock Slide. Luckily, the Rock Slide didn't flinch me or else I would have gone down easily. Absol goes down, and next is Phoebe. Phoebe's first Dusclops, much like Winona's Pelipper, loves to spam Protect and stall out your power points. Luckily, I land a crit Shadow Ball and take out Dusclops in 1 shot. Bayonet comes in and can't survive 1 Shadow Ball either. Bayonet goes down. Next up is Sableye. Sableye doesn't take a Shadow Ball very well even though it's neutral. Goes for a double team, which is useless because I end up knocking it out with another Shadow Ball. Next up is Phoebe's second Bayonet. Her second Bayonet can't live a Shadow Ball either, so it goes down in 1 shot. Last but not least, she has 1 more Dusclops. Shadow Ball is going to do a sizable chunk of damage as it goes for an Earthquake, which doesn't hit very hard, pops a Citrus Berry, and goes down to 1 more Shadow Ball. Time for me to take on Glacia. Glacia leads with Celio. I hit it with Shockwave, which does a decent chunk of damage. It sets up Hail. Now I'm going to take residual damage every turn. I hit it with another Shockwave to take it out. Next up, Glacia is going to send in Glalie, which I'm worried about because she has 2 and I have nothing that deals super effective damage against it. So I hit Glalie with the Strength. It does really good damage, so at least it's a 2-shot. Glalie misses an Icy Wind, so my speed doesn't get lowered, and I take it out with 1 more Strength. Next up is Glacia's second Celio. Right off the bat, I'm going for a Shockwave just like the first Celio to take it down to less than half health. It goes for a Blizzard and misses in the Hail. I didn't know that was possible, but the following Shockwave from Buscemi will take out Celio. Next up is her second Glalie. Hail stops, so Glalie is seemingly forced to go for Hail again as I take it down with 2 strengths. Glacia's last Pokemon is Walrein, and Walrein is super tanky. My Shockwave doesn't do as much as I want it to do, but that's okay. I hit Wall Rain with a Shockwave and it does about 40%. It retaliates with an Ice Beam that doesn't freeze me, and that's all I wanted out of that. I hit it with the Return and it actually goes down. Return is too strong. Now I'm moving on to Drake. Drake is another brick wall in this run because of Shelgon. If Shelgon hits me with a Rock Tomb, that's going to lower my speed by 1 stage, and then I can't outspeed Flygon. I also believe I need a few more levels under my belt and a slightly different strategy. On my first attempt here, I was able to make it past Shelgon without getting hit by Rock Tomb, and it was really not an issue. For Altaria, it didn't even set up a Dragon Dance, so I was able to force a full restore with Return, and then follow up with 1 crit Shadow Ball and a normal Shadow Ball to take it out. Kingdra's next, and it wasn't really a big issue either. Return did a really good chunk of damage to it. It did set up a Dragon Dance, so it did outspeed me after that. Hit me with a Surf, and then a Shadow Ball took it out. Not really that bad. I make it to Flygon, and this is the real issue. It outspeeds me and hits me with huge earthquakes, so it takes me out, and if I can't take on Flygon, I definitely can't take on Salamence. Here's a couple more attempts where I instantly hit the reset button because of Shelgon's Rock Tomb. Not nice. I think it's just about time that I grind up a few levels and think about a different strategy to take on Drake. I head just west from Petalburg to find a hidden heart scale buried in the beach. I then take that heart scale to the Move Tutor in Fall Arbor Town to remind Buscemi how to use Hypnosis, because this is going to save my butt. Before attempting to take on the Elite Four again, including Drake, who is the issue, I decide to go into Victory Road and grind up to level 75. That might just be enough. I make it back to Drake with absolutely no issue. With Hypnosis under my belt now, Shelgon is almost no problem at all. It does wake up after Hypnosis pretty quick, but I'm able to put it back to sleep after it misses a Rock Tomb. After it falls asleep, I hit it with a Shadow Ball, followed up with a Return to take it out. I hit it with a Shadow Ball first because I don't want him to heal up with a full restore. Next up is Altaria, and instead of going move by move, I'll explain my strategy here. Altaria has an ability called Natural Cure. What Natural Cure does is when Altaria is afflicted with a status condition such as sleep, Drake can switch out Altaria and cure it of that status condition. The AI feels forced to cure the status condition, so Drake switches out Altaria every time I put it to sleep. This gives me some free hits on the incoming Pokemon, or another free Hypnosis. So essentially, I'm baiting in the other Pokemon to hit them really hard before they could do anything to me. Kingdra went down quickly after being put to sleep. I'm putting Altaria back to sleep with Hypnosis. He feels forced to switch, so he switches out to Flygon, so I get a really strong strength off on Flygon, outspeed it, and KO it. Drake really loves his Altaria, so it comes back in and takes another Hypnosis. It's forced to switch out to cure that sleep. This will force in Salamence. Salamence has Intimidate, so that's kind of scary, but I get a free Strength on him. It does about a third. He hits me with a Dragon Claw. I hit him with another Strength. He has a Citrus Berry, but I'm going to hit him with another Strength, and that will take out Salamence. Altaria is coming back in, and that makes Altaria Drake's last Pokemon, which in turn makes it easier to deal with. I hit Altaria with a Strength. It hits me back with a Double Edge, takes Recoil, and I'm able to take it down with a Return. That's the strat. Let's take on the champion. Wailord is extremely frail. It doesn't take a Return very well, but it dishes out a Double Edge, which does a decent amount of damage. Unfortunately, Wallace uses a full restore on Wailord, making him nice and healthy again. But this Wailord can't deal with 2 strengths, so it goes down. Next, Tentacruel comes in, usually fairly bulky, but it goes down to a single Return, and I was excited about that. Next up is Wallace's Ludicolo. Ludicolo is just as frail as Wailord, so it can't take a Return without fainting. Ludicolo goes down. Next up is Whiscash. Whiscash is just a little bit more bulky. It's a good thing it only goes for Amnesia, because 1 Return almost takes it out, but a second one definitely makes it faint. Down goes Whiscash, and out comes Gyarados. Gyarados has Intimidate, so he cuts my attack by 1 stage. This one's going to go down to 2 Returns, but not before it gets off a Dragon Dance, outspeeds me, and hits me with a huge Earthquake. Look how much damage that did. Gyarados goes down to a crit Return, not that it mattered, but Milotic comes out. I put Milotic to sleep because it knows things like Recover, and Surf, and Ice Beam, and realistically, I just don't want to risk a freeze, a crit, or it spamming Recover over and over again. 3 Returns are going to be enough to take out Milotic even after the Citrus Berry recovery. I'm just glad it stayed asleep that long, and that's a wrap, like Paris backward. As a lone wolf by himself, Buscemi makes it into the Hall of Fame at level 78. This was a great run. It had its ups and downs, and there were definitely some speed bumps, but Buscemi and I pulled through. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to more challenge runs in the future. I'm open to suggestions as well. If you want to see a specific Pokemon challenge run, leave it in the comment section down below. Let me know the Pokemon that you'd like me to use and which game you want me to play through. Now I'd like to take this time to talk a little bit about my channel, like where I've been, and what I'm planning for the future. So I've been gone for about 6 months, but now I'm back. I had a lot of family business to take care of and couldn't make the time to continue creating content. Now I'm super excited to be back in the saddle again. Videos will now be going back to being an on a regular basis thing, and I'm stoked. As for the future, I love doing this Pokemon challenge, so that'll be a normal thing you'll see from now on. They take a little bit longer to make than my typical videos, so there will be other games and Let's Plays in between these challenge runs. I'll continue creating content on my favorite games like Monster Hunter and Pokemon. Scarlet and Violet are coming pretty soon, so I'm very much looking forward to a brand new Pokemon adventure. On top of those things, I'd like to branch out to a bunch of other games that I enjoy in between other uploads. Well, I've been rambling on for far too long now. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and if you've stuck around this long, I sincerely appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed what you watched and you would like to watch more, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps a lot. Check out my channel for plenty more to come, and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with what I have going on. I've been Skwizzit, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.